Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, your co-host is David Robinson. David is a client of mine, and he is doing big things in the real estate syndication industry. I know you are going to enjoy today's show.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, David Robinson. Today, our guest is Melanie McDaniel. Melanie, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So Melanie is a girl on fire for her goals. She founded Freestyle Capital Group and Freestyle Fund and hopes to build the fortunes of 99 households through appreciating assets. Now, Melanie, very, very brief bio. There's more to that story. And so why don't we start off, if you can, just give us a little bit of background on yourself, and then we can talk a little bit about how you've been able to find clarity in your life and in your business that has led to success in the real estate syndication world.
Yeah, for sure. So I was raised in a normal American household, right? Go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a job. I did something a little bit different. I threw the military in there because when I was 17, I was over high school, and I graduated a year early, actually, just to get out in the world. I had this burning desire to travel. It's part of who I am. I love to travel. So I joined the Navy because I felt like I had my best chance of traveling in the Navy. So I did 4 years there. My first duty station was Italy. So that was a good call on my part.
Yes.
go Navy. And then, I was getting out of the Navy. Still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But I wanted to go to school. So I started listing, what did I love to do? I figured as a young person, I was smart enough to realize if I'm going to have a job for the rest of my life, I might as well enjoy it, right? So first thing is studying. So when I was making my list of things I love to do, travel was the first thing. And actually that was my whole list, travel. So I studied tourism.
Oh, that's great. Perfect fit, right?
Yeah, like hospitality and travel. So I did that, got my bachelor's degree, and then kind of bounced around in different jobs because I had to. I worked at a hotel, and then I bartended, and then I ended up in Waikiki on a tourist submarine. Did that for a bit, but I was just getting antsy as far as I didn't like the corporate ladder that I was about to climb. And I don't know, I just felt like I was made for more. And at the time, my dad's wife was a park ranger for the National Park Service. And I had visited during college, Rocky Mountain, where she worked. And I thought, I could do that for a while while I figured it out. So I ended up in the Park Service, which turned out to be a very long experience. I was in for 9 years, ended up in law enforcement. Wow. So 9 years in law enforcement. And then in 2015, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the Purple Book, the book that's changed so many people's lives. I am no different. I read that book and I was pissed.
Yeah.
Why didn't anybody tell me about this? And I was so mindset trained to be the person with, get a job and have a pension and work and live within your means. And that was my future. That was as good as it was going to get. Until I read that book, I realized there's so much more out there. And I learned about myself that I'm an entrepreneur. I am not a great employee. I was very unfulfilled as a park ranger. Some people think it's the dream job. Well, it is the dream job. It is a job. So even the dreams become jobs, right? Maybe. So it took me 2 years from 2015 to 2017 to grasp the idea of leaving this federal job, the security, this thing my whole life I've been taught to chase. 2 years of mind feed, listening to motivational speeches, books. Of course, real estate was what I got out of Rich Dad, Poor Dad was the vehicle that was going to get me there. I did the Rich Dad, Poor Dad coaching guru training program. It was very expensive. So that was all on a credit card. But in 2017, regardless of the debt, the $30,000 in debt, I decided to jump. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. So I left the federal career. I moved to Virginia just simply because the guy I was dating at the time got orders and he moved. So I'm like, well, that gives me a really clean slate, right? New market, new job, new everything. Why not just strip my whole life and start over again, right?
Start over, press the reset button.
complete reset. So the plan was always to be an agent, a real estate agent, as the stepping stone. So that's what I chose to do as the stepping stone. I had all of this knowledge that I learned from the Rich Dad Poor Dad training program for flipping houses and single family rentals. And I took a commercial course and some other stuff, but I thought, well, I can use that knowledge as an agent to help other people do those small things. I didn't know where I would end up. I didn't where I am now. I didn't know this would be my destination, but I knew that I wanted to go bigger than the single family for a few reasons. One, the economies of scale, of course, but two, I feel like if you go big enough, it takes a team. And me being the new person, I can align myself with a team that knows what they're doing, and that could shorten my timeline as well. So I had all of this in my mind, but really didn't know what the ultimate destination was. But I did know that being a real estate agent was just the stepping stone. So I gave myself 3 years, and it took me 2.5 to get to where I wanted to be, to leave. I've built a big, and for anybody getting started, if they plan on being an agent, this is the route I took, and this is why I was so successful. I started a meetup and provided value to people, even though I'm not the one teaching. If you're at the front of the room, it gives you the authority, right? Even if you're not teaching, you're bringing speakers in, you're providing value, you're connecting people, and that goes a long way. So by the time I left, I had a list of like 500 or 600 people that would come to the meetup on and off. I built a team because I had too many clients. I needed to have a team. So I had 3 people on my team. As I was leaving, I worked it out with them that they would continue running the meetup and having the team and growing, and give me a 6-month runway while I branched off on my new adventure. So I had, money, and then I would give them my whole book of business, and they could take over the brand and do that. So that worked out well. During those 2.5 years, I did Michael Blanc's program for apartment. That's actually where I met Whitney, one of Michael Blanc's financial freedom events that he had in Virginia.
Oh, great.
And that was my start, because I had realized and gotten the clarity after a while that apartments that was the route that I wanted to go. So I did that coaching program, and the clarity came, and this is what I kind of want to share today, because I feel like I was going down a road and there was a fog. I could see where the road was going, but I couldn't see very far ahead of me. So as you learn and grow, you learn about yourself, the fog starts kind of clearing. And once it's clear, and maybe you even have enough clarity that you can like speed up, then everything starts hitting. So in the July of 2019, I was at Dealmaker Live, which is Michael Blanc's conference. I wish I could remember who it was or what triggered it, but I got 100% clarity at that event. I had gone through my coaching program. I had bought a 24 unit, or we were under contract to buy it. So I was kind of getting that first deal done, the law of the first deal. But I hated so many aspects of the real estate piece. I didn't want to talk to brokers. I don't like touring properties necessarily. I don't want to be part of the asset management, the business plan, because of being the traveler I am, which is another piece of my story, is I'm location independent. And sometimes I even live internationally. So I wanted to design my life so I could work from a computer. So with that piece, with the clarity of not liking all those other jobs on the GP team, I was able to start preparing to do just what I do now, which is I'm a capital partner. So I either partner as a co-GP, raise a lot of capital, do investor relations. Of course, I do all my own underwriting and stuff. I want to make sure my investors are getting into a good investment. Or I've also done an SPV, which is a single purpose vehicle, where it's a fund that I bring investors into the fund, and then the fund invests in as an LP into a deal. And now I'm rolling up a fund that the structure of it is going to be a customizable fund. So even though they're in the fund, they're in one security, they get 1K1, they can allocate their funds to their choice of investments within the fund. So anyway, that's where I'm headed. But it's all a journey, and it's learning about yourself. Whenever I come against friction, something I'm supposed to be doing, like calling a broker, and I don't do it, then I have to like step back and be the watcher of myself and realize, well, I don't like doing that. So why, if I'm leaving a job, a job that I don't like and I'm not fulfilled, why would I create now myself a new job, even if I am my own boss, where I'm a slave to something I don't love doing?
Well, that is a topic that I'd like to dive into a little bit. And thank you for giving us an overview of your journey up to this point. This is fantastic. And I think will resonate with a lot of people, right? And I think from your story, we can tell that you are someone, obviously, you love to travel. You're just unique. You want to be able to have total freedom and flexibility. And what's cool is that you've designed your life. Now it's taken a decade, right? You started at 9 years in law enforcement, not exactly what you wanted to do, making this transition. It's been a process for you, but now you've built this thing that's exactly what you would like it to be. I'm sure there's days when you have to do some things that you don't want to do, but for the most part, leaning into the what you would consider, your unique skill set or your superpower, and that's amazing. So I want to back up to July 2019. I think it was then that you said at Dealmaker Live that you had this moment of clarity, and I wanted to maybe just dig a little bit more out of you what that moment was. You talked about having the fog clear, and then things became just more clear, and this moment of clarity to help you push forward. I think there's a lot of listeners to the show that are in that moment, right, where they want to move forward, but everything just seems so confusing and challenging, and they don't know where to begin, and they're hoping for that moment of clarity. And so maybe you could shed some light on what that experience was like for you and how that happened. Was there any tactical or strategic things that you did to bring that about?
Oh man, I wish I could remember specifically if it was a person that was on stage or something, but there was literally like just a pivot happened, and the fog was gone, and I'm like, I'm going there.
And was that specifically, when you say going there, was that multifamily? Was that focusing on capital? What was that moment of I'm going there?
Raising capital, being the
Gotcha.
capital partner, working on being the connector with the investors, with the best sponsors. So I think part of it is it's just a personal journey, and it didn't happen like overnight. It was a journey to that clarity for sure, because I was very conscious about learning about myself. When I would come against friction on a task I was supposed to do and I really didn't want to do it, I would just notice that. And calling brokers and underwriting deals. I mean, I always knew I didn't like underwriting. I didn't need to like experience that. I knew I didn't want to do that. So, but I thought in the beginning I was going to be interested in calling brokers and negotiating and with sellers and doing all that stuff. No, not at all. Once I did it, I was like, oh no, that someone else needs to do this part. And then, getting to the closing table, all of that stuff, all of the due diligence, all that stuff, not exciting, really just was not fun. Touring properties, especially like class B yucky properties, not exciting. I don't like looking in crawl spaces. I don't care about paint color. I really don't. Someone
Love
else
it.
does though, and I know that. So everything I was doing while I was buying that 24 unit, I got to experience every job on the GP, which was a great experience. So yeah. Someone on stage I know was talking about they raised capital, and I can't remember in what capacity it was, because of course we have to be very careful when we say raise capital. I actually like to refer to myself as a private equity fund manager, but I do raise capital because I'm also a co-sponsor sometimes. We have to be careful because I'm not a licensed broker dealer, and
Sure.
raising capital isn't the only thing I do. I either manage a fund or I'm a co-sponsor and I do other things as well. So yeah, I think I just didn't know. I didn't realize that I could just do one thing on the GP. I think I
Mm,
felt like I needed to do all of it. And
yeah.
then as I went through it, my partner did a lot of it. And I'm like, oh, well, he's really good at that. I'll just do this other thing. Um, so for people, I would say it doesn't happen overnight, and you can't expect it to. From 2015 to 2017 is how long it took me to go into real estate full time. And then from 2017 to like, we'll say beginning of 2019 is when I had to discover what I wanted to do in the bigger picture, right? Multifamily instead of single family or flips or whatever. And then from that 2018, 19, when I went into my coaching program, it was even more clarity and defining and refining of the apartments, what I like. So it's a journey. I mean, it takes time because you have to learn about yourself and be very conscious about it and what you like, what your skills are. And it's amazing when you think you're going to like something and you do it, you don't. So just
Yeah.
be open. Don't be so closed-minded and think that you'll have it all figured out when you're getting started. Try everything, and then you'll eliminate very quickly the things you don't like to do. And then one day you'll end up in the piece you love, or you won't. And then maybe you need to go do something else outside of real estate or whatever. Just become a passive investor. Go back to whatever you really love. Like, everybody's journey is going to be so different, but man, it feels so good when you find the clarity. And even though I had the clarity regarding capital raising, since then, I have defined and refined my clarity on who I want to raise from, how I want to find them. Do I want a big platform? Do I want a boutique business? Do I want relationships? Do I want to have a YouTube channel with a bunch of strangers coming into my funnel? Like, I have really refined and defined that, and will continue to do that. Like I said in my in the bio, that I just want to help 99 households. Well, I wrote that bio probably a month ago. I'm down to like 80 households. I think 50 to 80. I could be financially free if I serviced and gave white glove service to only 50 households that invested every other deal once or twice a year, accredited high net worth people who go on vacations with me, who we go out and have drinks and have dinner, once in a while. And I have real relationships with those people. I've further refined and defined that piece. So it's a constant journey, I think. I don't think we ever arrive, but it does help that clarity, that light through the fog, it starts narrowing and the fog starts clearing a bit. I don't see the end of the road. To this day, I don't see the end of the road. There's still fog, but I have a really long road ahead of me before the fog. I can see, pretty far, but I don't see the end.
Yeah, I love that. That's some great insight for our listeners that are in that stage in their business and in their life, trying to really hone in on what their unique skill set is, what their superpower is, what they want to do. Excuse me, moving forward. And there is so much power in achieving that moment of clarity that's going to help you push forward. And you also mentioned that multifamily gives us the opportunity to stay in that lane, right? Because it is a team sport. It is a business where you can bring on partners. These deals are large enough where not only do you need, or not only can you, but you need additional partners to be able to handle certain aspects of the business. And so I really appreciate you walking us through that. And I think that'll be helpful to the listeners. In the time that we have remaining, I'd love to dive into a little bit more tactical and strategic aspect of your business. So when you decided, hey, I want to focus on this aspect of the business, on the capital side, bringing equity to these deals and being the connector between passive investors and quality operators, how did you go about executing on that? What were the steps that you took to achieve what you've done today?
I think it all started at least with knowing that I never want to lose investor money, right? I take it very serious when you take somebody's hard-earned money to invest it in a deal. I find that to be it's a huge task, and I don't take it lightly. So I started knowing that I needed to have a really good underwriter, because I said that I don't like it, I don't want to, but the underwriting, I think, is the piece where you can't cut corners. And for people who are new and they are self-proclaimed underwriters, they don't know what they don't know. They might think they're good, but when you're in the business and you've seen things happen, and it just takes a certain set of skills. So early on, I knew I needed to have an institutional grade underwriter on my team, because I feel like that's the first line of defense to not lose investor money. Besides, the operator themselves, not just their track record and their experience and everything, that's important, but who are they at the core? What are their morals and values? And if a deal is going south, do they shut down, clam up, go quiet, or do they communicate? Would they pay their last penny, refinance their house to pay off investors? Or are they just going to be, oh, sorry, you knew it was risky, peace out, and roll out? Like those, I try to get to the human, the jockey, go for the jockey, not worry about the horse, the track, whatever. If you have a good jockey, then you're going to have a good horse. You're going to have a good track. So jockey and underwriting, I feel like, are kind of equally the two I look at. So I don't know what made me like hone into that, except at the beginning of all of this, I knew how important it was to make sure I just don't ever lose anybody's money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
wanna
it's critical,
sleep at
right? I
night in this
mean,
business.
you have to be a steward of that, and it's critically important, right? You won't be in business for very long if you start losing investor money. Maybe what
Yeah.
we could do is talk about your first deal that you worked on that was outside of the 24 unit, where you were in this capacity of capital raiser, and walk us through that briefly. How did that come about?
So the 24 unit we closed early 2020, and then I launched Freestyle Capital Group in early 2020, right before the Best Ever conference. I was in Thailand when I put the deal or the website and the business together, launched from Thailand, came home to go to Best Ever conference, and then COVID, of course, hit shortly after. And I had planned to be abroad most of the year, but I ended up staying domestic. So I sat on the sidelines and I was pretty quiet for about 6 months because I really didn't know what to tell people. I wasn't even confident that multifamily was still the best investment in the world. So my newsletter to people said, "Hey guys, hope you're all doing well." Sitting on the sidelines, just watching all this play out. And that was it. That's what I said for 6 months. And then I started seeing some of my favorite operators buying deals. So I thought, okay, I respect these dudes. These are the guys that I want to raise capital for. They're buying deals, but a couple of them did a deal and they didn't call me. So I called them, yeah, like, hey, remember me? Like I was going to raise capital, like bring you some money. And they're like, we're good on this one, Melanie. And I'm like, okay, yeah, next one. So, and then those two same operators each had another deal. And I'm like, oh, hey guys, yeah, are you gonna like, do you need capital? Anyway, I had put all my eggs in the basket of 3 operators. And then I realized I need like 100 operators because I need options and I need to do research and I need different operators because these guys are getting too big for me to participate, especially as a new capital raiser. So even though COVID sucked, it was also a 10x, 100x for my business because everything went virtual. I could go to meetups across the nation. I go to conferences that I never would have been able to go to. I was a networking beast. I was known as the network queen. Everyone knew me just in the meetups I would go to, at least in the spaces that I was going regularly. And I'm getting to your question. So from July to July of 2020 to July of this year is how long it took me to find a deal to raise capital for. And it was not without opportunity. I had many people ask me. And when I looked at the operator, the underwriting, the deal structure, the market, something told me no. So it's a 1.5 year journey before I did my first deal as a capital partner, just to put it out there. Like it takes time. So the first deal I did, and 3 happened almost at the same time. The first one was an apartment complex in San Antonio. The operators didn't want another co-GP, so I opted to do the SPV, the single purpose entity, did the fund, brought in other capital partners so we could bring $1 million to the deal as an LP. So that was my first deal. And that operator, it took months and months of a relationship with that person in that group before I felt comfortable doing a deal. And when they sent the deal, it was underwritten well. There were some things I liked, but other things I liked a lot. So yeah, it worked out. But it was to answer your question, it's real relationships with real people. And by the time they had a deal, they came to me and said, we want you to raise capital for us. So yeah, it just took a long time. It's the relationships, it's being consistent, being persistent, knowing your stuff. Don't be an imposter, like truly know what you're doing and partner with strong operators or strong partners, depending on, what job you have on the GP.
Well, and I think on that first deal in San Antonio, bringing $1 million to that deal through the special purpose fund, there's a ton of work that went into getting to that point where you had enough investors to bring $1 million into that deal that trusted you to invest in your fund and ultimately invest in the deal. So what were some of the strategies that you implemented over that 18-month period? You did mention networking. Is there any other tactics, strategies that our listeners could take away and apply to their business to help them get to a place where they could confidently go into their next deal, whether that's 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months down the road, and have confidence that they can bring some value to the table from a capital raising perspective?
Yeah. So a lot of people ask, where do you find your investors, right? So I think that's kind of what you're asking. Honestly, most of my investors came from when I was a real estate agent and I had that meetup. And I just built a lot of relationships in Virginia at the time. So a lot of my investors were my military officers that would come to my meetup or buy properties or flip properties. Um, and then many came from all the networking I did during COVID times. People I've met at conferences. I think a couple trickled in, like Instagram or something. But at the end of the day, they were all people I knew. My CPA's boss, he's the only one I didn't really know, but we're in the same circle. So
Sure. Yeah.
yeah. It's just real relationships with real people. I didn't go the route. I mean, I have a YouTube channel, I have a website, I have, social media. I'm pretty active on there. I'm very consistent, which is huge. Consistent and persistent, by the way, those are the two keywords to take away today. Be consistent. Um, yeah, they're just real relationships. So if someone
Yeah.
is sitting there, they don't know anybody or they think they don't know anybody and they're going to build this big platform, good for you. If you start a podcast, just ask Whitney and just ask you. It's a job. You've created a job for yourself. And if you love it, amazing. But if you get a year into a podcast and you're like, man, I just don't like this anymore. Sorry, you're a slave to that podcast. I could be a slave to my YouTube channel. I just kind of stopped making videos and realized that's a friction point for me. I'm probably going to end it, probably going to stop doing it because I don't enjoy it. But you know what I do enjoy and where I get a lot of investors from is networking, going to conferences. I spend a lot of
Mhm.
money and time now that we're back in person. I fly around and I spend a lot of money going to conferences, but I may meet one or two investors every time, and that makes it all worth it. And if I
Yeah.
don't meet an investor, I meet a partner. And if I don't meet a partner or an investor, then I'm an idiot. And I failed. I
well,
didn't do what I was supposed to do.
and this goes back to our conversation earlier about you really leaning into your strengths and what you want your life to look like. This conference thing, although you have two aspects of it. You have the virtual, which you can do from anywhere in the world that you want to, and it gives you the opportunity to travel to different destinations to network with these people. So it fits very
Yeah.
well into your ultimate lifestyle goal and business goals. So Melanie, this has been an excellent conversation. I appreciate you sharing, your journey and how you were able to, be a part of a deal that it was 18 months in the making, right? It was a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of networking, going to these events, learning, putting your team together, structuring the special purpose fund, and meeting the operators that you ended up partnering with. That was a ton of work, and what a great story. We got to start winding down here. I've got just a couple last questions for you. The first one is, what's the number one thing that you believe has contributed to your success? We probably, touched on a lot of this, but if you were to hone it down and say, this is the number one thing that's contributed to my success, what would that be?
Consistency. And for me, and I know a lot of people can't do this, but if this is what you're going to do, do it full time.
Yeah, love it.
I've gotten feedback from investors because I actually now I'm on my next coach. I have a performance coach for capital raising, and my task was to go and ask all my investors why they invested with me, not directly, but figure it out. And a big theme of it is you take it serious, you do it full time, you're always learning, you're always, going to conferences and whatever. And people see that, and they see that as me being consistent, focused, and in it full time. So
Yeah, love it. How do you like to give back?
well, to give back on a small portion, I have a child, and I've been sponsoring a child since like 2010 in Kenya, and I am going to go to Miracle House and meet the kids eventually. I'm on like my third kid. They keep growing up, right? But as far as the business goes, I have a mastermind. It's free, but it's very specific. People come and go all the time because if they stop showing up, they're not in the mastermind anymore. It's come, get to work, do deals, or don't, no wallflowers allowed is my policy. So I have a weekly mastermind, and that's to give back in my knowledge and what I've learned along the way to other capital raisers.
Love it. Well, I appreciate you sharing your journey with us. Melanie, what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you and learn more about what you have going on?
They can go to the website, freestylecapitalgroup.com. And then I have my little download for how to design your life, like how to figure out where you are, where you need to get to be financially free. So if they get the download, of course, I collect their email, and then that's a great way to like get into the system. But they can always just email me, Melanie@freestylecapitalgroup.com. And then I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. They should be able to find me pretty easy if they just look for Freestyle Capital Group or Melanie McDaniel. Melanie Travel Gal is my Instagram.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.